Marcus stared at his laptop screen for a full 10 seconds before he said a word. The account balance had just crossed $1 million for the first time in his life. He turned to his wife, Diane, ready to say something. She was already halfway into the pantry, asking if he'd remembered to defrost the chicken for dinner. 29 years of saving. 29 years of small, boring decisions stacked on top of each other. And the moment it finally paid off, it looked exactly like every other Wednesday. No champagne. No confetti. Just two people in a kitchen with chipped tile counters, one of them now technically worth 7 figures, both of them thinking about what to eat. Welcome to Moneyverse. Today we're answering a question almost nobody asks out loud. If hitting $1 million is supposed to change everything, why did it change nothing for Marcus? By the end of this video, you'll understand what that number actually buys, why it feels smaller than it sounds, and why the people who reach it rarely feel the way you'd expect. For most of the last century, the word millionaire meant something specific. It meant yachts. It meant a private island. It meant a man lighting a cigar with folded cash just because he could. That image is still stuck somewhere in the back of our brains, passed down from grandparents who used the word like it described a different species of human being. And that's exactly the problem, because the picture never got updated even though the math underneath it quietly changed decades ago. Let's look at the actual numbers because they're less forgiving than the fantasy. $1 today simply doesn't stretch as far as it used to, and nobody's shocked by that in theory. But run the real figures and it gets uncomfortable fast. $1 million today has roughly the same purchasing power that $500,000 had at the turn of the millennium. Go back further, to 1980, and today's million buys what a quarter of that amount would have bought back then. The word stayed the same. The value underneath it got quietly cut down. And the culture already knows this, even if nobody says it directly. Ask people today how much money it actually takes to feel wealthy, and the average answer isn't $1 million. It's well over $2 million. More than double what Marcus just reached. The finish line his grandparents pictured has already been moved by everyone still running toward it, and nobody bothered sending him the memo. So what does $1 million actually do, mechanically, once you have it? This is where most people get genuinely surprised. There's a well-known rule in retirement planning that says you can safely withdraw around 4% of your portfolio each year without running out of money over 3 decades. 4% of $1 million is $40,000 a year. That's the entire income this milestone produces. Not a fantasy number. A perfectly ordinary mid-level salary. Sit with that for a second, because $40,000 a year is still a real budget with real limits. It's still checking the total before you tap your card at the grocery store. It's still deciding whether the family trip happens this year or gets pushed to next year because flights got expensive. Reaching this number doesn't mean prices stop mattering. It means you crossed a finish line and discovered the finish line has monthly bills of its own. And it gets heavier because that income doesn't arrive in a vacuum, it arrives inside an aging body. One of the largest expenses waiting for Marcus and Diane isn't a vacation, it's healthcare. A typical couple retiring in their mid-60s can expect to spend somewhere around $350,000 on medical costs over the rest of their lives, not even counting long-term care. A significant slice of that hard-earned million already has someone else's name on it. But here's the part that genuinely breaks people's mental model once they understand it. Being a millionaire on paper and having $1 million to actually spend are two completely different situations. Most of that net worth sits in exactly 2 places: the equity locked inside the house they live in, and retirement accounts they legally can't fully touch yet. You can't spend a house. You can sell it, but then you need somewhere else to live, and that costs money too. Pull retirement savings out too early and penalties and taxes take a serious bite out of the balance. So here's a man who is, on paper, a millionaire, and if his water heater dies next Tuesday, he might genuinely have to think twice before covering it. That's just what this milestone actually looks like underneath the label. There's also a quiet partner sitting inside that retirement account the whole time: the government. If Marcus's million is sitting in a traditional pre-tax account, it was never fully his to begin with. Every dollar he never paid income tax on going in gets taxed coming out. Depending on where he lives and how he withdraws it, that $1 million balance might really only be worth around $700,000 spendable dollars. And once he reaches a certain age, the law forces him to start pulling money out whether he wants to or not, specifically so it can finally be taxed. Now, you might picture the kind of person who reaches this milestone as some flashy high roller. This is where the picture needs a complete rebuild, because the real millionaire looks nothing like the commercial. When researchers study thousands of people who've hit seven figures, the profile is almost defiantly boring: teacher, accountant, engineer, office manager. Most never inherited meaningful money, and most never even earned a six-figure salary in a typical year. They simply did one unglamorous thing for a long time: saved a portion of every paycheck, put it into unremarkable index funds, and waited around 26 years. That's Marcus, a high school science teacher for 3 decades. Diane worked payroll at a mid-sized company. They drove the same sedan until it physically gave out, then replaced it with a slightly newer used one. 2 houses down lives Derek, with the newest truck on the block, a boat he uses twice a summer, and a watch that cost more than Marcus's first car. Derek looks about 10 times richer than Marcus. Derek is also, quite possibly, one slow month away from the entire arrangement collapsing like a tower of blocks in a light breeze. The people who look wealthy and the people who actually are wealthy are rarely the same people. Real wealth tends to be quiet. Getting there is brutal, especially at the beginning, which is exactly where most people quit. In the early years, your balance grows almost entirely because you keep feeding it, not because it's earning much on its own. It feels like pushing a boulder up a hill with your bare hands. But once the pile gets large enough, the growth on the money itself starts outpacing what you're personally adding, and the boulder starts rolling by itself. Most people never feel that shift because they stop pushing too soon. Marcus didn't stop. That's the entire secret, and it's almost insulting how simple it actually is. To be fair to the number, $1 million net worth still puts a household in roughly the top 10 to 15% nationally. That's a real accomplishment most people never reach. But to cross into the actual top 1%, the level people picture when they daydream about being rich, Marcus would need to multiply what he has by more than 10. The gap between having nothing and hitting $1 million is enormous. The gap between $1 million and being truly rich is a canyon almost nobody crosses. And here's the strangest part of all. When you survey people who genuinely have $1 million in investable assets and ask if they consider themselves wealthy, the overwhelming majority say no. Only around 8% will call themselves rich. Most describe themselves as middle class or upper middle class. The milestone everyone is chasing, the people who already reached it are telling you it doesn't feel like crossing anything at all. Part of that comes down to taxes and inflation quietly eating the number. But part of it is simply how the human brain works, and this trap catches absolutely everyone. Your sense of enough isn't fixed. It moves the instant you hit it. The moment you reach a number, it becomes your new baseline, and your eyes drift to the next one. There is no dollar amount where the brain finally exhales and says we're done here. The finish line isn't sitting at the end of the track. It's strapped to your own forehead, moving every time you do. So let's end where the story actually ends. A few weeks after crossing 7 figures, Marcus stood in his driveway on a Saturday morning, watching Diane back the same aging sedan out of the garage to run errands. 2 doors down, Derek was loading his boat onto its trailer again, phone pinned between his shoulder and his ear, arguing about a late payment. Marcus watched them both for a moment. Derek, who looked like the millionaire, and himself, who actually was one. That's when it finally landed, not at the laptop, but right there in the driveway. What Marcus had spent 29 years chasing had already arrived. It just showed up so quietly he almost missed it, because it never once looked like the commercial. It looked like nothing much at all. And nothing much, it turns out, is a lot more than most people ever get. If this changed how you think about the number you're chasing, subscribe to Moneyverse for more honest breakdowns of what wealth actually looks like. And a quick reminder, this video is for educational purposes only and isn't financial advice. See you in the next one.